Long Island Sound, one of New England's most prestigious bodies of water. Once teeming with sea life for fishermen and lobstermen alike, has since been decimated and deemed lobsterless Long Island. Located between the eastern tip of New York and Connecticut, Long Island Sound is home to over 120 species of finfish and 80 species of shellfish. Among the species of shellfish is the North Atlantic lobster, once a keystone to a thriving $30 million industry in Connecticut alone. But in the past 20 years, the lobster population has dropped 92%, which has decimated the industry, and lobstermen across the Sound have suffered.
My name is Bart Manzi. I'm a commercial lobsterman. I own the Guilford Lobster Pound. Purchased the property at the Lobster Pond in 1991, and we've been here ever since. When I started lobstering in New Haven as a deckhand, it was 1973, I used to fish blind trawls from one buoy to the next. And we used to pull a trawl up, and not only did we catch 3, 4, or 5 lobsters in every pot, whether they were keepers or not. In the mud that used to come up on the deck, on the rail, there were thousands and thousands of cricket-sized lobsters. After we pulled the trawl, we were afraid to walk on deck. We used to get the deck hose and just wash them overboard. It kept getting better and better. Fall of 1999, after coming off 3 or 4 banner years, 96, 97, 98, were just phenomenal years. We went out that fall and we started pulling traps, and the lobsters that we caught were very lethargic, and we saw a lot of dead lobsters in the pots too. The ones that we did that were alive, by the time we got to where we were delivering them, they were dead. So we ended up, we got a hold of Bob Bear up at the Lobster Institute in Orono, Maine. We had a scientist start dissecting the lobsters, doing some samples on the tissues, and he found that there was pesticides in the tissue. And the pesticide that he found was malathion. And that was the stuff that they used for the spray to kill the mosquito.
As crustaceans, lobsters have a very low tolerance rate to insecticides, and particularly malathion. In September of 1999, Hurricane Floyd dumped 10 inches of rain across southern New England, which caused a West Nile virus scare. A total of 30 million pounds of malathion were sprayed in Connecticut alone. The insecticides containing malathion quickly made its way into the rivers and streams across the state and into Long Island Sound. The lobster population was decimated in a matter of 3 weeks.
We ended up suing the chemical companies. We won a lawsuit. It wasn't what we should have got, but we got a fair amount of money. And I don't think they just gave away money because they thought we were nice. They knew they were wrong. And like I said, we did get a settlement from them, but it wasn't anywhere near what we should have got.
In 2000, Bart and other Connecticut lobstermen sued the chemical company responsible for spraying the malathion across the region. The case was ultimately settled for $75 million.
If you look at the trends, we've had warm water back in the 80s and the 70s, and it didn't take effect. The only thing that was different in the 90s was the introduction of the pesticides. So they can deny it all they want.
Since the insecticide spraying was sponsored by the state of Connecticut, they deny any correlation between lobster populations and the introduction of malathion. Instead, they blame warming waters and climate change.
They got their own agenda, and everything that we tell them, I believe it goes in one ear and out the other. They have their own agenda, and they do ask for our input, but they never use it. Our biggest problem right now is predation. Long Island Sound is inundated with black sea bass.
My name is Anthony Notaro. I've been fishing the Sound for 40 plus years. I got a party boat and a charter boat business on the Long Island Sound. Sea bass, probably about 15 years ago, you'd be lucky if you caught one in a six-hour trip. They use our grounds for spawning now. Now you can go out there and catch 50 of them in an hour. They're really taking over. They're eating the Sound up. We are losing our fluke population, our lobster population, our porgies. They are taking over. They're a nuisance to us.
We don't see any future in coming back unless they start raising what we can take as for fish. Right now, it's so limited that it's not even it's not making any kind of impact. In the 90s, I was probably landing anywhere from I would say 65,000 to 90,000 pounds a year. And if we catch this year, if I catch 1,000 pounds for the year, that'll be a lot. Right now we have a little outdoor eatery, which is probably sustaining, keeping us, in business. And 95% of our lobsters are coming in from either Canada, Maine, or Rhode Island. I'm one of the fortunate ones. There's not a lot of guys in the Sound that most of the guys are paying rent. They're having trouble finding a spot to even operate out of. The industry is just about decimated. There's probably maybe a dozen of us left in the whole state. And after this year, it's going to probably be even less.
While the state of Connecticut continues to blame warming waters for the cause of the diminishing lobster population, the remaining lobstermen still set their traps day after day and continue to make a living, one lobster at a time.